13. Rarest black people in the world. What if the features people once mocked, feared, or misunderstood became the very qualities that made someone unforgettable? Imagine being born with two different colored eyes, extraordinarily deep skin, striking freckles, vitiligo, or albinism, and growing up knowing strangers might stare before they ever knew your name. Today, we are uncovering 13 remarkable black individuals whose distinctive appearances challenged conventional ideas of beauty. But behind these unforgettable faces are stories of bullying, rejection, resilience, and extraordinary transformation. And some of these journeys may completely change how you define rare. Before we begin, subscribe to Golden Black Legends, hit the like button, and tell us in the comments what truly makes someone beautiful: their appearance, their confidence, or their story. Diandra Forrest. Diandra Forrest was born in the Bronx, New York, into an African-American family, but from childhood, her appearance immediately made her stand out. She was born with albinism, a genetic condition that reduces melanin production in the skin, hair, and eyes. With extremely light skin and naturally blonde hair, Diandra looked dramatically different from many people around her, making her story especially compelling in a discussion of black individuals with uncommon physical characteristics. Yet being different was not always something she celebrated. Growing up, Diandra faced staring, teasing, and uncomfortable questions about her racial identity. People sometimes struggled to understand that a woman with her complexion could be black. Those experiences left emotional scars, but they also helped shape the confidence she would later carry into an industry notorious for narrow beauty standards. Her path changed when photographer Shamir Khan noticed her in New York City and encouraged her to consider modeling. Diandra eventually signed with Elite Models NY and became one of the most recognizable black models with albinism. Her distinctive appearance opened conversations about representation while challenging assumptions about what African-American beauty was supposed to look like. Her visibility expanded beyond traditional fashion work. In 2013, Diandra appeared in Beyoncé's Pretty Hurts music video, whose themes surrounding beauty standards made her presence particularly meaningful. She has also used interviews and public appearances to discuss albinism, identity discrimination, and self-acceptance. At 36 in 2026, Diandra's significance reaches beyond her photographs. Albinism itself is not exclusive to any race, and her condition should never be treated as a spectacle. What makes her remarkable is how she transformed an appearance that once attracted painful attention into a platform for representation. Diandra Forrest ultimately showed that black beauty has never belonged to one shade. Meki Alante Lucky. Meki Alante. Lucky's entrance into the public eye came from one of the most unlikely places imaginable. Born in North Carolina, Lucky possesses heterochromia, a condition in which the irises differ in color. His distinctive eyes, one blue and the other brown, would eventually become the feature that transformed an unexpected moment of internet attention into a modeling career. In 2016, Lucky was arrested in North Carolina and his mugshot began circulating online. Instead of disappearing into the endless stream of booking photographs, his image attracted enormous attention because of his contrasting eye colors and striking facial features. The attention should not romanticize his legal troubles, but it undeniably changed the direction of his public life. Modeling professionals noticed him, and Lucky subsequently entered the fashion industry. He signed with Atlanta-based St. Clair Modeling and began appearing in professional photo shoots and fashion-related projects. What had initially been public exposure associated with an arrest was gradually replaced by carefully produced images highlighting the characteristic that made his appearance so recognizable. Lucky's story also illustrates why physical differences can be fascinating without being exaggerated. Heterochromia is real, but claims that he possesses some uniquely unprecedented genetic mutation would go beyond established evidence. His unusual eye coloration alone provides a legitimate reason for his inclusion in a story about distinctive black appearances. Now in his late 20s, Meki Alante. Lucky remains remembered as the man whose mismatched eyes turned an ordinary mugshot into an international viral image. His journey is filled with contradictions, legal trouble and opportunity, unwanted exposure, and professional photography judgment and reinvention. More importantly, it demonstrates how one uncommon physical characteristic can completely alter the way the world sees a person and sometimes redirect the course of a life. Koudia Diop. Koudia Diop never needed a world record to make her appearance extraordinary. Born in Senegal and later moving to France as a teenager, she became internationally recognized for her exceptionally deep complexion. Eventually nicknamed the Melanin Goddess, Diop emerged as a powerful figure in conversations surrounding colorism, representation, and the celebration of very dark skin. Her confidence, however, developed through difficult experiences. Diop has discussed being teased because of her complexion while growing up. In environments where lighter skin could be unfairly favored, being noticeably darker made her a target for insulting comments. Rather than allowing those judgments to determine her self-image permanently, she gradually learned to view her skin as something worthy of pride. Her striking photographs later gained widespread attention online. Diop became associated with The Colored Girl, a creative platform celebrating women of different complexions and backgrounds. Images emphasizing her natural skin tone circulated internationally, attracting media coverage and a rapidly expanding social media audience. The same characteristic that once generated ridicule had become central to her message of self-confidence. What makes Koudia valuable to this story is not a fabricated claim that she has the darkest skin in the world. There is no credible global record establishing such a title, and skin pigmentation varies enormously across human populations. Her significance instead comes from possessing an exceptionally dark complexion while publicly confronting the colorism attached to it. 829 in 2026. Diop represents a broader transformation in modern beauty culture. Her photographs challenged an industry historically criticized for underrepresenting darker-skinned women. She turned painful childhood experiences into advocacy without needing sensational claims to strengthen her story. Koudia Diop's beauty was never extraordinary because a record book declared it so. Her impact came from embracing the complexion others once criticized and helping thousands of people see deep melanin not as something to diminish but something deserving visibility, dignity, and celebration. Sean Ross. Before fashion audiences knew his name, Sean Ross already understood what it meant to be noticed before being understood. Born in the Bronx, New York, Ross is African American and was born with albinism, a genetic condition affecting melanin production. His very light skin hair and distinctive facial features made him visibly different from many black children around him and exposed him to cruelty long before fashion transformed that visibility into opportunity. Ross has spoken openly about being bullied during childhood because of his appearance, yet dance provided an early outlet for expression and confidence. He trained at the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater before his distinctive appearance eventually attracted attention from the fashion world. His modeling breakthrough carried historical significance. Ross became widely recognized as one of the first internationally successful professional male models with albinism, challenging two assumptions simultaneously: what a black man could look like and what conventional male fashion models were expected to look like. His career expanded into editorial photography campaigns, runway work, and music videos. Ross appeared in Beyoncé's Pretty Hurts and has worked within projects involving major figures in music and fashion. Rather than allowing albinism to become his entire identity, he developed a broader, creative career encompassing modeling, performance, music, and advocacy. His inclusion among extraordinary black individuals requires an important distinction. Albinism is not exclusive to African-descended populations, nor does it make someone less authentically black. It is an inherited condition occurring worldwide, although particular forms have higher prevalence in parts of sub-Saharan Africa. Now 35, Sean Ross has spent much of his career turning visibility into representation. The characteristics that once made strangers ridicule him eventually became impossible for the fashion industry to ignore. His story is therefore bigger than rarity. Ross helped demonstrate something once missing from mainstream imagery. Blackness exists across an astonishing spectrum of appearances, and even the features society labels unusual can become powerful symbols of belonging. Winnie Harlow, born Chantel Whitney Brown, young in Toronto. Winnie Harlow grew up with a condition that made her impossible to overlook. Around age 4, she developed vitiligo, which causes areas of skin to lose pigment. The contrasting patches spread across her face and body, creating the distinctive appearance now recognized worldwide. Yet before fashion celebrated that difference, childhood could be unforgiving. Harlow has spoken openly about bullying, cruel nicknames, and changing schools as she struggled with how others reacted to her skin. Her life began shifting when photographs of her gained attention online. In 2014, Tyra Banks selected Harlow for Cycle 21 of America's Next Top Model. She did not win, but the exposure introduced her to millions of viewers and helped open doors far beyond reality television. Instead of covering her vitiligo, she made it visible, entering an industry that historically promoted a much narrower definition of beauty. Harlow subsequently built an international career through runway appearances, editorials, advertising campaigns, and major fashion events. A landmark moment came in 2018 when she walked the Victoria's Secret fashion show. She later worked with numerous prominent fashion and beauty brands, becoming one of the best-known models of her generation. What makes Harlow especially relevant to a story about extraordinary Black appearances is not merely visual rarity. Vitiligo can affect people of every ethnicity, and it should never be portrayed as a strange spectacle. Her importance comes from bringing enormous mainstream visibility to a condition many people once tried desperately to conceal. At 32, in 2026, Winnie Harlow has transformed painful attention into representation. The skin that once attracted insults eventually appeared on some of fashion's biggest stages. Her journey proves that sometimes beauty standards change when one person refuses to hide what the world once told them was different. Nyakim Gatwech. Nyakim Gatwech became internationally recognizable through a feature she was once pressured to question: her exceptionally deep, richly pigmented complexion. Born to South Sudanese parents and eventually settling in the United States after her family experienced displacement, Gatwech grew up navigating cultures where attitudes toward dark skin could be painfully complicated. Her appearance would later make her a celebrated model, but the road toward that confidence was far from effortless. Gatwech has publicly discussed colorism and the hurtful remarks she received because of her complexion. One frequently reported experience involved being asked whether she would consider bleaching her skin. Instead of allowing such attitudes to dictate her self-worth, she embraced her natural shade and began presenting it proudly through photographs that attracted enormous attention online. Social media accelerated her rise. Her striking portraits circulated widely, and admirers began calling her the Queen of Dark. Modeling opportunities followed, while Gatwech increasingly used her visibility to discuss self-acceptance, South Sudanese heritage representation, and the damaging effects of colorism. Her influence became especially meaningful to dark-skinned girls who rarely saw similar complexions celebrated in mainstream imagery. One viral claim must be rejected: Gatwech does not hold a Guinness World Record for having the world's darkest skin. Guinness does not maintain such a record. Calling her the darkest person alive therefore turns a genuine story of representation into misinformation. At 33, in 2026, Nyakim needs no fictional record to make her story compelling. Her significance lies in taking a characteristic that society sometimes treated unfairly and presenting it without apology. What once generated judgment became a platform for confidence. Her story is ultimately not about determining whose skin is darkest. It is about challenging the troubling idea that darker skin should ever be considered less beautiful. Thando Hopa. Thando Hopa stands at an extraordinary intersection of fashion law and human rights advocacy. Born in South Africa, She has albinism, an inherited genetic condition affecting melanin production, as a black African woman with very light skin and hair. Hopa grew up visibly different in a society where misconceptions surrounding albinism could carry consequences far more serious than simple curiosity. Instead of allowing those perceptions to define her, she built an identity around education and purpose. Before becoming internationally associated with fashion, Hopa studied law and worked as a prosecutor. That professional background distinguished her from the traditional modeling narrative. She understood discrimination not only through personal experience, but through the language of rights and justice. Her direction expanded when South African designer Gert Johan Coetzee encouraged her to enter modeling, recognizing that her presence could challenge conventional standards. Fashion soon provided Hopa with a global platform. Rather than presenting albinism as a curiosity, she used visibility to confront stereotypes about both race and beauty. In 2019, she achieved a landmark moment by appearing on the cover of Vogue Portugal, an appearance widely celebrated for increasing representation of people with albinism in international fashion. Her influence reaches well beyond photographs. Hopa has participated in advocacy, connected with the United Nations, and has spoken about discrimination, identity representation, and the treatment of people with albinism. Those efforts are particularly important because harmful myths about albinism persist in some communities. Now in her late 30s, Thando Hopa demonstrates why this story should be about more than unusual appearances. Her condition may make her visually distinctive, but her intelligence and advocacy give that visibility lasting meaning. She did not simply enter spaces where people who looked like her were rarely seen. She used those spaces to make sure they would no longer remain invisible. Jalicia Nightingale, born in Barbados. Jalicia Nightingale attracted attention long before professional photographers ever pointed their cameras toward her. Her striking appearance combines dark skin with naturally light blue eyes, producing an unusual contrast that became her most recognizable physical characteristic. Today, that look can seem perfectly suited to fashion, but growing up with features that immediately attracted strangers' attention was not always an advantage. Nightingale has described experiencing teasing and uncomfortable reactions during childhood. Her eyes made her stand apart, and constant attention could become exhausting rather than flattering. That early experience illustrates an uncomfortable reality behind many stories of unusual beauty. The feature adults later praise can be exactly what makes childhood difficult. Over time, however, Nightingale began seeing her appearance differently. After leaving Barbados and spending time in Europe, she pursued opportunities in modeling. Her distinctive face proved naturally memorable before the camera, helping her establish professional work and eventually build a career connected to the British fashion industry. She also expressed interest in expanding beyond modeling into acting, seeking opportunities where her personality and abilities could matter alongside her appearance. Her story, nevertheless, requires careful fact-checking. Online articles have circulated highly specific claims about her earnings, contracts, and exactly how statistically rare her eye color is. Without strong primary documentation, such numbers should not be repeated as established facts. The visible characteristic itself is compelling enough without manufactured statistics. Now in her early 30s, Jalicia Nightingale represents the strange way perception can change over time. The eyes that once brought unwanted attention eventually became an advantage in front of the camera. Her journey reminds viewers that an uncommon appearance doesn't suddenly become valuable when fashion approves it. Sometimes the person remains exactly the same, the world simply learns to look at them differently. Ralph Souffront. Ralph Souffront possesses the kind of face that stays in your memory long after you've seen it. Born in Haiti and later pursuing modeling in the United States, he became known for the remarkable freckle-like pigmentation covering his face and extending across his body. Against his darker complexion, the markings create an immediately recognizable pattern, one that eventually became a professional advantage after years of making him feel painfully different. Growing up, Souffrant experienced bullying and unwanted attention because of his appearance. Children can be merciless toward anything they consider unusual, and the characteristics that would eventually fascinate photographers initially brought ridicule. Those experiences influenced the confidence he later developed, making his eventual emergence in fashion more significant than simply being discovered because of an unconventional face. A major breakthrough arrived when Souffrant appeared in Kanye West's Yeezy Season 3 presentation at Madison Square Garden in 2016. The enormous event combined fashion, music, and celebrity culture before a worldwide audience. Souffrant's presence reflected an industry gradually becoming more interested in faces that challenged older standards of what a professional model was supposed to look like. His distinctive pigmentation subsequently became central to photographs and modeling work. However, responsible storytelling requires avoiding unsupported medical explanations. Visible freckles or pigmentation patterns should not automatically be assigned a specific diagnosis unless reliable evidence confirms it. His appearance is remarkable without inventing a condition to make it sound rarer. Now in his early 30s, Ralph Souffrant represents an extraordinary reversal. The characteristic that once attracted cruel attention became something photographers deliberately wanted to capture. His skin did not need to change for that transformation to happen. The surrounding culture did. Ralph's journey shows how quickly the line between different and beautiful can disappear when individuality is finally given a place in the spotlight. Rifilwe Modiselle. Rifilwe Modiselle grew up in South Africa, looking dramatically different from most people around her. Born into a black family, she has albinism, an inherited genetic condition that reduces melanin production in the skin, hair, and eyes. Her very light complexion made her immediately noticeable, but visibility did not automatically bring acceptance. In a society where people with albinism have sometimes faced damaging stereotypes and discrimination, Modiselle learned early that appearance could influence how strangers treated her. Instead of allowing those attitudes to determine her future, she entered an industry where appearance mattered enormously. Modiselle began modeling while still young and became widely recognized as one of South Africa's pioneering professional models with albinism. Her presence challenged the assumption that African beauty had to fit within one predictable range of skin tones or physical characteristics. Her career eventually extended beyond fashion. Modiselle developed work as an actress, television personality, performer, and public speaker. This broader career allowed her to discuss issues surrounding albinism from personal experience rather than allowing magazines or photographers to define her solely through her complexion. She has repeatedly promoted greater understanding and representation for people who live with visible differences. What makes Rifilwe important to this story is not simply that albinism is uncommon. Her experience reveals an extraordinary reality about human pigmentation. A person can have extremely light skin while remaining completely connected to Black African ancestry, family, and identity. Albinism changes pigmentation, it does not determine someone's race or cultural belonging. At 40, in 2026, Modiselle's influence reaches beyond a memorable appearance. The girl who once stood out because society considered her different eventually became part of changing how difference itself was represented. Her journey shows that true visibility means more than being seen. It means finally being seen accurately. Nikia Phoenix. Phoenix became known for the dense pattern of natural freckles scattered across her face and body. Combined with her complexion and distinctive features, they created an appearance that stood apart in an industry historically obsessed with smooth, standardized images. Her relationship with that difference was not always effortless. Growing up, Phoenix became conscious that her freckles attracted attention, particularly because popular media offered relatively few images of freckled Black women. Instead of spending adulthood trying to erase what made her recognizable, she eventually embraced those markings as part of her identity and professional image. Modeling gave that decision greater visibility. Phoenix worked in commercial and editorial environments, with her appearance becoming an advantage before the camera rather than something requiring correction. She has been associated with campaigns and creative projects while developing a public identity extending beyond fashion. Her work increasingly centered on celebrating individuality, natural features, and broader definitions of Black beauty. Phoenix also created Black Girl Beautiful, a platform devoted to celebrating Black women culture, self-expression, and representation. That work gave her story greater substance than simply being the woman with freckles. Her markings may attract the first glance, but the message surrounding them addresses a much larger issue: who gets represented as beautiful without having to modify themselves first. Claims about exactly how statistically rare her freckles are should be treated cautiously. Freckles occur across populations, including among people of African ancestry, and there is no credible ranking establishing Phoenix as having the world's rarest complexion. Now in her mid-40s, Nikia Phoenix represents individuality rather than a medical curiosity. What distinguishes her story is how confidently she made an underrepresented feature visible, showing that Black beauty contains far more variation than mainstream imagery once allowed audiences to see. Gare Ijalana was only a child when a handful of photographs transformed her into an international internet sensation. Born in Nigeria, she became widely known in 2018 after photographer Mofe Bamuyiwa photographed her as part of a creative project. With enormous natural hair, expressive eyes, smooth, dark skin, and an unusually composed expression. For someone so young, Jer appeared almost like a carefully created portrait rather than a spontaneous photograph. When Bamuyiwa shared the images online, the reaction was extraordinary. International media outlets quickly picked up the story, with headlines describing Jare as an exceptionally beautiful child. Her portraits traveled far beyond Nigeria and introduced global audiences to a young girl who had not originally been working as an established professional model. She also has sisters who appeared in photographs, turning public interest toward the family's striking portraiture. But this is where responsible storytelling becomes important. Some retellings, including exaggerated versions, circulating online, have attributed unusual blue or aqua eyes to Jer, or suggested that her appearance results from a documented rare genetic condition. Reliable evidence does not establish those claims. Her photographs are remarkable, but extraordinary beauty should not automatically be converted into a medical or genetic mystery. For that reason, Jer fits this video best when Rare describes an exceptionally distinctive appearance rather than a scientifically proven rare condition. She should not be presented alongside people with confirmed albinism or vitiligo, as though the biological evidence were equivalent. Now a teenager. Jer's story remains an example of how quickly one image can cross borders in the digital era. She did not become memorable because scientists discovered an extraordinary mutation. She became memorable because a photographer captured something audiences found unusually captivating. Sometimes rarity cannot be measured in a laboratory. Sometimes it exists in a face, a moment, and a photograph millions of people simply cannot forget. Nmachi Ihegboro. When Nmachi Ihegboro was born in Britain in 2010, her appearance generated international fascination. Her parents, Ben and Angela Ihegboro, were Nigerian and Black, while their newborn daughter had remarkably light skin, light-colored hair, and features dramatically different from those of her parents. Photographs of the family spread through newspapers around the world, turning an ordinary birth into a widely discussed story about the complexity of human inheritance. The immediate reaction included speculation about albinism and parentage. Nmachi's parents publicly rejected doubts surrounding whether she was their biological child, while contemporary reports stated that doctors did not believe she had a typical form of albinism. Exactly which genetic combination produced her appearance, however, was never conclusively established in the public record. That uncertainty is crucial. Describing her as possessing a confirmed rare mutation would go beyond the available evidence. Genetics can produce surprising outcomes. Skin, hair, and eye pigmentation are influenced by multiple genes, and traits carried through generations can sometimes appear in combinations that surprise families. But without genetic testing released publicly assigning Nmachi one specific biological explanation would turn an intriguing case into speculation. Unlike most people on this list, Nmachi did not build a career around her appearance. She was a baby whose photographs became news because people were fascinated by the contrast between her appearance and that of her Nigerian parents. Her family largely remained outside the celebrity world afterward, making privacy especially important when retelling her story. At approximately 16 in 2026, Nmachi is better described as a person who became internationally known than as a traditional celebrity. Her inclusion nevertheless fits the theme of extraordinary Black appearances. Her story leaves us with something more interesting than a sensational answer. Human genetics is enormously complex, and sometimes the most responsible conclusion is admitting that science has not publicly provided a definitive explanation. From extraordinary pigmentation to striking eyes, distinctive freckles, vitiligo, and albinism, these 13 remarkable individuals remind us just how diverse Black beauty can truly be. But their stories are about far more than appearance. Many faced staring, bullying, colorism, or rejection before learning to embrace the characteristics that made them stand out. Today, their journeys challenge generations of narrow beauty standards and prove that being different can become a powerful form of representation. But now, we want to hear from you. Which person on this list surprised you the most, and do you think society genuinely celebrates unique beauty today, or are old standards still controlling how we see others? Share your opinion in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, like, subscribe, and join Golden Black Legends for more unforgettable stories.